Hello, folks. We are back with another episode of Generation Red, the kettle corn of Husker fan podcast, where we try to be sweet, but at times we do get a bit salty, and we are a proud member of the Herd at Sports Network. I am your host, Ken.
And I am the betrothed son and co-host, and I guess just host, Scott. Hi.
That's right. And we have a guest in the studio with us tonight. And but before we get to that, we got to do a little bit of housekeeping real quick. First and foremost, you can save $10 on an annual subscription to Hail Varsity by going to hailvarsity.com/subscribe and put in the coupon code Generation Red, all one word, I believe, all caps, and that'll get you $10 off of your subscription. Doesn't get any better than that. If you ask me, just the yearly magazine alone is worth it. And our guest has a big hand in that yearly magazine this year. But before we get to him, we're almost there. I promise. Nebraska Podcast Awards, first annual, are August 19th, 2023 at 7:30 p.m. at Nebraska Brewing Company in La Vista, Nebraska. Whew, I said Nebraska 3 times in the same sentence. I think I should get an award for that. Voting is live now and it ends in 7 days. So to vote now, click on the link in the description of this video and you should be able to do that, which of course I forgot to put the link in the description of the video. So you have to wait until after the show posts, folks. It'll be there. Any of you listening to the audio podcast in a couple of days, you should be able to click the link that's down in the show notes there as well. And you'll be able to vote for us on those 3 categories, the video visuals, comedy, and the Kool-Aid Aholics Anonymous. If anything, give us the Kool-Aid Award just to piss off Red Cats Rob. That would be pretty cool.
That would be pretty cool.
And
he would take that one personally.
Yes, he would. Absolutely, he would. And I would enjoy personally gigging him about it every single time I got a chance. Free tickets to attend the awards show might still be available. Just Google Nebraska Podcast Awards and click on the Eventbrite link. Without much further ado, we are joined by Eric Francis, 30-year veteran of photographing Husker sports and covering them pretty extensively, and especially in the last few years with Hail Varsity. I forgot to write down a bunch of the stuff off of your Twitter so that I could introduce you properly, Eric. I apologize for that. But, dude, welcome. And we've been hanging out and talking on StreamYard for a little while. It's been a lot of fun, and I am really looking forward to the conversation. Thanks for joining us tonight.
Absolutely.
So just dive right into it. What is it that got you into photography? When did you first discover that you liked to take pictures?
So a little bit in high school, but mostly when I graduated high school, I was still just going to college. I was going to teach something. I didn't really care what, and coach football. That's all I wanted to do. And that was my plan. And then that summer, and I'd always kind of, played around with my mom's camera and things. But it was nothing more than just like a passing hobby. And then that summer after my freshman year, I came back and spent a lot of time hanging out with a good friend of mine that I went to high school with, and he was really getting into photography. And honestly, it looked like a lot of fun, and all the gear was really cool. Right, I'm kind of a gadget guy, right? So, and photography was a bunch of gadgets. And I just loved I loved all that part of it. And it was fun. And he was starting to get into the photojournalism thing. And that really looked like a lot of fun. Meeting people, telling stories, going to all these cool events, not just sports, but, covering politics and news and spot news and all kinds of things. And it was a lot of fun. And so I really got interested in that. And about the same time that after my sophomore year, just sophomore, junior, and junior year of playing football and sitting in my dorm room with ice packs on both knees 3 or 4 times a week, I just had a moment of, what are you doing? I mean, as much as you love this game, you're done after college. There's not like you're not playing for the pros here. So I gave up my senior year and picked up the camera full time and kind of went all in with that and moved back to Omaha. Worked at the UNO student newspaper for several years, and then got some jobs and around here covering sports is a lot of that job. Freelancing for the World Herald and the Associated Press, a lot of it was shooting sports, and over time I just kind of started to realize that I'm not half bad at it, and just kind of went with it.
Did you have like this might be a kind of a dig into your core memories here a little bit, but did you ever have like a moment when you were like in the initial stages of kind of exploring around with the photography thing with different cameras, and you said you're a gearhead and all that stuff, but did you have like a moment where you got a gallery of just awesome photos and you're looking at them at, maybe it's an event that really intrigued you or something, and you just kind of sit there in your room or in your studio or wherever you're at, and you're just looking at these photos and you go, I really want to do this. Did you have that moment? Is it still like, do you have that maybe ingrained in your memory at one point?
There wasn't like a singular light bulb moment like what you're going after. There wasn't a moment when it just, for me, it just kind of evolved. In that there was more sports, and I started to get pretty decent at it. I suppose the closest thing I'd come to, learning photography is just like anything else. It's just it's a skill set that you dive into and you give yourself over to if you really enjoy it. But I covered the College World Series for 25 plus years for the Associated Press mostly. And I started to realize some things through that process is when I started to realize some things about myself. And I had kind of what I called a Zen moment, baking in the sun out at Rosenblatt, or maybe, it was probably still at Rosenblatt, where I realized that I stopped, because the early part of the career was trying to learn it and, learning from your mistakes and chasing that last mistake you made. And I had kind of a Zen moment. It was kind of a light bulb moment where I realized to just if I missed a photo, because you're going to miss them all the time, right? Even the best shooters in the world miss stuff all the time. And I had the Zen moment where I realized to just let that go and stop chasing the last mistake I made and keep looking for the next one, and then I start to realize that, man, that's kind of a metaphor for life as well, right?
Yeah,
That's true.
Stop chasing that last mistake, learn from it, and start looking for the next one. Otherwise, you're going to miss the next one too.
Yeah.
Because you're still being haunted by the last mistake you made or the last thing you missed. And then once I made that, it was almost like a light bulb transition. Once I made that mental shift, that's when my work really took off. Really took off. And I started to realize also through doing College World Series and some of the Nebraska football things that I kind of get better the more the game matters. Like early in the weeks of the covering College World Series games, I wasn't fully engaged and I might miss something, and who the hell cares? But as the week would go along and games started to matter more and more and more, I started to miss less and less and less, right? In fact, one of my favorite stories from that time was actually the other staff photographer partner at the magazine, John Peterson, used to work the College World Series for other organizations back then. And one day he was sitting behind me and I don't even remember what it was. Something happened. Boom, boom, boom. We make the picture and I'm looking at it at the back of the camera. And because he's over my shoulder, he can see my camera. And I just hear from the back, he says something to the effect of, God damn, do you miss anything? And I'm like, yeah, I actually miss a lot. The problem is now when I miss something, I don't care.
You're in the moment.
Right. And
Moment
the
to moment.
more the moment matters, the more you get dialed into, the more I seem to get dialed into it. I don't know if that's a residual of being an athlete for all those years or what it is, but the more it matters, the more I'm focused in. And ironically, COVID put a huge spotlight on that for me, because now all of a sudden we were shooting sports in empty arenas, in empty Memorial Stadium. This is the first time I'd ever shot a football game at Memorial Stadium when there was virtually nobody there.
It's first for everybody.
Right. I mean, I'm 40, 50 yards away and I can hear the center making his calls.
Wow.
Right. It's that quiet in there.
Wow.
Oh man.
And I found myself struggling.
Oh yeah.
For half of that season to focus and to do my job. And I realized that my entire career, I had to learn to focus through the energy of 90,000 people. Because when you're down on that field, all that energy is focused on that field. So you can't help but absorb it and feel it and have that. And I learned throughout my career to focus through that, just like the athletes do. Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden it was gone. And I had nothing to focus through. So it felt a little more than a little disconcerting for a while.
I have like another kind of off the cuff, off the outline question, just because I find photography very intriguing. It's always something that, even with just my iPhone, I don't have any fancy cameras or anything. I just usually rely on my phone.
iPhones
and whatnot.
do a great job.
Oh, they do. They do. I love taking good photos, just because they capture a good moment. And I notice whenever I'm taking a good photo and I look at it, I'm like, that's a damn good photo. When I reflect back on it, I realize that a lot of it's mostly just intuition, like that I know what looks good in my mind's eye. So then I take it with a camera and hopefully it reflects what I see in my mind.
Yeah.
With you being a sports photographer, obviously there's a lot of focal points. The guy who has the ball is usually where you're pointing the camera. But do you still have moments where it's like you're just relying purely on your intuition of where to aim your camera at the right time to get the right moment?
It's a little bit of both. I mean, it's a little bit of intuition. It's a little bit of knowing the coaches, knowing the players, knowing what they're likely to do. And you can kind of increase your odds if you have an idea of what they're likely to do, just like what a defensive coordinator would be thinking, trying to anticipate what they're going to do. And you can put yourself in positions to do that. There is a lot of instinctual stuff that happens. Like that shot from Rutgers that I think is in the slideshow we'll touch on later. That was purely an instinctual moment. I don't even think I got the camera up to my eye in that moment. It was purely instinctual. But that's, those are the kind of things that happen after 40 years of, refining your craft. And when you've got the craftsmanship part of it on point, then you can rely on those instinctual moments when they happen and have success there.
Have you always kind of focused in or covered the Huskers in some form or fashion over your career? Was it just happenstance because you were in the Nebraska area that you've worked at, or was there an official? You're probably an independent contractor or freelancer for the most part. So it's just kind of like, as people say, hey, we need you to come cover this. Is that
more or less? Yeah. And it's been for different organizations over the years, but pretty much.
How about some highlights? Do you? I know we're going to go through some shots. We've got a gallery full of stuff that you've done since you've been at part of Hail Varsity. But are there some highlights, some shots that you remember back in the day? Say during I don't know the glory years.
Yeah, I mean
the
the Fiesta Bowl had a lot of good moments.
Was
You
that your
know?
picture of Frazier running into the end zone on the front of Sports Illustrated?
No, that
Oh,
was
dang. I was hoping it would.
God, I'm trying to remember who was shooting that game. I think SI had 2 guys there for that game.
Hmm.
I don't remember if that was Strohmeyer's picture. I don't remember I don't remember who that was at the moment. But no, he ran right by me.
Hmm.
And then as he was running into the end zone to make that picture, somebody stepped out in front of me.
Oh,
And
wow.
I totally got blocked.
Bummer.
Oh, man.
Okay, so I have another random question, and it's something that I just like. Whenever I think of any industry or any craft or anything, I always want to know the background, like what's going on in the background, or what absurd things do you get that not many people are ever going to know about because they just don't think about those things. But do you have like any vivid memories of like, okay, they're doing all this over there, but I'm just going to aim my camera over here and take a picture of somebody doing something stupid or something really embarrassing or something that if this photo were to get out, the person I just took the picture of would not be a fan of me. Have you ever gotten those moments before?
Oh, sure. They've been playing. I mean, the one from last year, I'm sure a couple of pictures I've made of Scott this last year probably wouldn't endear him to me a whole lot because we all know what the writing on the wall was. So I spent a considerable amount of time kind of stalking him. And not like right on top of him. I mean, I've got my big sports lens, so I'm like, 30 yards away, but specifically keeping an eye on him for the right moment because I knew we were going to need it at some point. But yeah, no, I mean, there's all kinds of the fans and things like that. It comes to mind a picture I made of the College World Series years ago of a girl jumped on the field and ran across the field and grabbed like the shortstop's butt as she ran by.
You got a picture of that?
Yeah. Unfortunately, it keeps popping up every year. Unfortunately, it's probably going to be part of my legacy. 25 years of covering the College World Series, and that's the picture everybody remembers.
I don't hang it up on your wall.
Well, if you covered it, I went to my very first College World Series game in 1994. It was right after Nebraska wins the national championship. So it was the 2 games I saw it was that first Saturday of the weekend. It was Arizona State was playing, I believe, Miami, and then Oklahoma was playing somebody at night. So Oklahoma and Auburn, I think, were playing at night. So the Arizona State and Miami game, we're sitting out in left field left field. We're sitting out in left field. And somebody from Miami hits a line drive to the outfielder in left field, and he catches the thing probably 20 yards in front of the fence and throws a frozen rope to home to get the guy tagging out at third. And I was like, we're out there, we're just doing this number,
right?
As he's turning back around to walk, and he fires the finger guns up into the crowd, It was kind of like, man, I wish I had a camera. This was kind of a cool moment.
Nice.
But,
I was probably there for that.
Yeah, it was a great play. And then I think there was like 8 home runs or something in the nightcap, which that was what I loved about Rosenblatt. Rosenblatt was wonderful because 9 times out of 10, the wind's blowing out.
Sure, because they built it facing in the correct direction.
Yeah, they didn't do what they did at TD Ameritrade. But
I wasn't going to say
or
that.
Charles Schwab or whatever the blazes they call it now. But
right,
I've been to a few College World Series at Rosenblatt. I have not been to one at the new place yet because to me it's way more corporate than it used to be. But
it's just like all the other ones. Every other NCAA championship is exactly the same. It's become this big event where it's almost more about the things outside the stadium as it is about things inside the stadium.
Yeah, more about the bigness of the event as opposed to the spectacle you're actually seeing on the field.
Right.
Or so
Selling tens of thousands of shots at a bar.
yeah,
Jello
no kidding.
shots.
No kidding. How did you end up landing at a Hail Varsity? How did that come about?
Well, for years, the owner of Hail Varsity at the time, we had been talking for several years about wanting to bring me over, but he had to get subscriptions up and have the cash
Mhm.
flow to be able to afford bringing me over. And I told him, said, dude, just make enough so that I don't lose money by giving up one client to come over there, and I'm good. And finally, we got the numbers close enough that I was ready to make the jump, because after years of doing the Associated Press and Getty Images, and it had gotten really kind of formulaic for me and a little stale. And the idea of coming over to Hail Varsity and having almost complete creative control and the philosophy of wanting to do things different, show our readers things that they don't normally see, the things they don't expect to see in a way they don't normally see them. That was really intriguing to me, and something I was ready to do. So
yeah, I mean, we'll get to the photo gallery here in just a second, because what you're saying right now is exactly reflected in your photographs. At least the ones I picked anyway were the ones that you've talked about before on previous shows. I know that, but they're just moments. They're the ability to grab something in a moment of time, and it reflects a story. It's not just a person standing around catching a football. It's just, you capture an emotion with what you do. And it's obviously, Hail Varsity has really set you free to be able to do that. And they use a lot of those images. I know I just recently became a subscriber. I think it was within the last year. And just being able to
you've
see
missed a lot of good stuff then.
I know. I know. But it was, and just looking through the photos. I mean, sometimes I don't even read the stories. I just want to thumb through it real quick just to see all the different photos.
See, that's the
They're
best
amazing.
compliment ever.
They're amazing. And then of course I go back and read the stories, because nobody buys a picture magazine just for the photos when they were a kid, did they?
I did. I have shelves full of books back there that have very few words in them.
Yeah, there you go. Oh,
Speaking my kind of language.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So let me see if I can get this darn slideshow to work. Oh, that's right. I exited out by accident before we went live.
Oh yeah, you're gonna have to add it.
So
oops.
Where's my cursor? Well, you guys talk amongst yourselves while I try to figure out why my mouse doesn't want to work.
Okay. Yeah. I still am a picture guy. I don't read books all that often. I'm too ADHD for it. And it's honestly a skill that has to be acquired. And I am honestly too lazy to acquire that skill in my late 20s, but we'll see. Maybe I'll get bored. But every time I look at like the Hail Varsity magazine or just Sports Illustrated or anything like that, yeah, I agree with my dad. Like the thing that I always do first is I look and try and find my favorite image, and then I always lock in on the story that the image is related to first. That's how I thumb through magazines and news articles. I'm just looking for the image that captures my eye. So, yeah,
Same here.
It's definitely a career that I can appreciate. The one that
you were talking about
your life.
Yeah, you were talking about the cell phone thing earlier, and one thing that came to mind was there's an old adage that goes around, which is basically the best camera is the one that's in your hand, the one that you have on you, the one that you have with you. And for most people these days, that's now the cell phone, right? Most people don't carry cameras around anymore.
No.
And so I've toyed around with the idea, and maybe it'll happen someday, that I've always wanted to teach a photography class with just cell phones.
Hmm.
Because even my professional cameras are so good at handling a lot of the technical aspects that it frees me up to be more creative.
Hmm.
And like in the old days, you really had to understand shutter speed, aperture, film ISO,
Mm-hmm.
and there was no screen to look at on the back. You had to know in your head how that photo is going to look when you put those numbers on the camera. Well, now all of that stuff has gone away, and the cameras have gotten so good at handling all the technical aspects that literally, I mean, really, I could take my pro cameras and put them in all the automatic modes and hand them to you, and with very little input, you could make a decent action photo because the cameras have the ability to handle most of those technical things for you. So that's what with the cell phone thing. The cell phone's the same way. Cell phones do great, and so it would free us up to focus on the important things: light, composition, moment, backgrounds,
Mm-hmm.
all of that kind of stuff, rather than worrying about all the technical things.
Yeah, that is
Let's just
true.
focus on the things that make a nice picture.
I would honestly be curious about that because like I said, I run mostly off of my intuition, and obviously I have a biased lens of view. So it's like when I'm
Everybody
looking
does.
at my photos, I'm like, this is a damn good photo, but I don't know why it makes it a good photo. I mean, I have my hunches about like, okay, there's depth of field, there's intriguing contrasting backgrounds, and it almost adds an emphasis on the thing that I'm trying to focus on, but I just know that intuitively, I don't know it explicitly. And so getting those
Oh,
kinds of
but
classes would be really cool.
explicitly that stuff you could learn. I mean, I could teach you that stuff.
And that's exactly
The basic composition things, and I harp on this a lot on some of my own channels, is doing things with intention, right? Not that it's always gonna, because especially with shooting sports, it's inherently an unpredictable event, but you can make choices and do things with intention to increase your odds of getting what you want. And outside of sports, where you have more control, you can absolutely do things with complete intention and get exactly what you want. But you have to be a little intentional about it.
Fascinating.
Well,
Well,